This is the word according to Jen and Carolyn.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Welcome to the world of Jen and Carolyn.
Yes.
I'm Carolyn. Who are you?
I'm Jen. You could have guessed. There's only two of us.
Oh, I've got massive vacation brain though.
Oh, do
This
you
is
really?
the first time I've
do you need a vacation from your vacation?
I do. I'm so tired. I just noticed that like talking and being like on my device have already made me, I feel stupid. Not stupid. I feel motorally challenged.
Motorly challenged and apparently verbally challenged as well. But that's all right. We're going to get through it because today we're talking about Greek life, the history of fraternities and sororities. I don't really care about Greek life, but don't tell that to hundreds of thousands of college kids and my husband, who would consider that sacrilege.
Is this going to be the thing that cancels us? Is anyone going to call us in on this?
Oh, God. A bunch of angry, entitled, wealthy young men claiming misandry. That would be amazing. I'm waiting for a moment like that, actually.
I know, me too.
I would embrace
we live for
it.
that. I bet you. I'd stick you on that, though. I'd probably cry.
We only had one troll so far, and it was a relatively mild trolling comment, but I was so excited to get it.
It is.
Yeah.
It is exciting.
Yeah, it means someone's listening at least. That's cool. All press is good press.
That's true.
So, as we take this historical tour of Greek life, focusing on the United States, we're going to look at the origins of fraternities and sororities, the good, the bad, sexual assault, hazing, all these things that unfortunately are associated with Greek life.
Yeah.
Because statistically they happen. But there's also a lot of good that happens in sororities and fraternities, and we're going to point that out as well. So, Carolyn, were you ever in a sorority? I know you weren't because I know you, but did you ever consider joining?
I mean, I definitely fit the part, don't I?
I mean, maybe on paper, but you're a little more rebellious in spirit.
Yeah.
But then I can't, I'm pigeonholing.
My punkiness makes me not kind of anti, but also my need to belong. I would be a good fit. But yeah, I definitely seem like one, but that's a big fuck no.
Yeah.
I went to an all girls high school, so I know what happens when you put a bunch of immature hormonal girls in a group.
Yes.
I would probably be more likely to attend frat parties, but I never, I don't even think I ever did that in high school and in college.
Well, we didn't really have the opportunity. You and I both went to commuter schools.
Yeah, but I did do something called Job's Daughters.
That sounds...
Doesn't it sound like churchy, like fucked up?
Like the promise
yes.
keepers or whatever. Not the oath keepers. That's something entirely different. You know what I'm talking about.
Well, my dad was a Mason.
Okay.
And my mom was an Eastern Star. And so when they first moved to San Francisco, that was a way for my dad to meet friends and meet community. He was a Mason in Milwaukee. And so that was his way of networking and kind of the reason people are pro frats and sororities, like, meeting people, connections. And so he never really participated, but they had a teen program for girls called Job's Daughters. And he started my sister in it and she hated it. You had to wear like gunny sack prom dresses and like, you were like the honored queen or the princess.
That is not your sister's style, and I respect her for it.
But then we ended up not sticking with it because there was tons of drinking that would go on. And my dad was like, no, this is not what I
To me, that sounds like the only good part of this whole endeavor.
My dad thought the girls were a little too crazy and like he was a little like, no. And so we pulled out of it. But no, I don't think I could have afforded to buy my friendships. I never really needed it. I think too in the Bay Area, you already have a lot of connections. So I just resourced off of that.
Yeah.
And like you said, I went to SF State where I think they had Greek life, but they didn't live on campus. So,
no, I never joined either. And I was at USF after I went to a community college where I'm almost certain there was no Greek life. CSM, is there Greek life? Let us know.
But I watched a lot of Lifetime and all my knowledge comes from fucked up shit that happened or movies.
Yeah.
So it's a very Hollywood. House Bunny is one of my favorite movies.
Oh, I love that movie. And, you know, a lot of my knowledge actually comes directly from my husband, who was in, it sounds like a very cool, fairly diverse fraternity where he met his best friend, Scott, whom I love as well, and met all these incredible guys. And they seemed really good. They seemed like nice guys. Yeah. So, and
I think that's anything, like, kind of as I think about this whole episode, like it's like most things. Right. There's always going to be people who fuck shit up.
Yes.
In any organization or group.
Absolutely. And there's power, you know, social clout associated with this. And I think any sort of institution or group where there's a power component, you're going to attract the wrong sorts. Look at the police department, for instance. You have a lot of people there, probably the majority, who want to do good and serve the community. And you have folks who are like, oh, power, I'm going to take this and abuse it. Right. Exactly.
Cool.
We all know about the Stanford prison test experiment, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Well, it kind of is. So anyway, back to fraternities and sororities. So let's define what this means first, like all things or most things in the US, I guess, or Euro life. There's a Latin origin. Fraternitas and sororitas. I'm going to say it like it's Spanish because that's what it looks like to me. Brotherhood and sisterhood, collectively referred to as Greek life. They're social organizations at North American colleges and universities. Generally, membership in a fraternity or sorority is obtained as an undergraduate student, but continues thereafter for life. It's for life.
For life. Forever.
It's forever.
Unless you fuck up.
Once I thought, what's that from The Godfather? Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. And I think Paulie on The Sopranos was fond of saying it. So there are apparently 5 common elements that define a fraternity or sorority, and that's secrecy, single-sex membership, selection of new members based on 2-part vetting and probationary process known as rushing and pledging, ownership and occupancy of a residential property where undergraduate members live, and 5, a set of complex identification symbols that may include Greek letters, armorial achievements, ciphers. Every time I hear cipher, all I think of is the zodiac. Those coded messages, those are called ciphers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so ciphers, hopefully not like the zodiac. Badges, grips, hand signs, gang signs, with signs, passwords,
literally,
flowers, and colors. So also they engage, or they're supposed to engage, in philanthropic endeavors, host parties, provide finishing training for new members, such as instruction on etiquette, dress, and manners, and create networking opportunities for their newly graduated members.
Interesting.
Got all that?
I do.
All right, Carolyn, I'm going to turn it over to you to read to folks about the history.
So the history is actually super cool. So like you said, the origins come from Freemasonry, literally, like originally, and, you know, secret societies. But the first actual fraternity in North America to incorporate most of the elements of modern fraternities was Pi Beta Kappa, founded at the College of William and Mary in 1775. I think something I read said that some dude mysteriously died.
Whoa.
In that, I should have looked that up to get the name. I'll put it in the show notes. But yeah, so fraternities represented the intersection between dining clubs, literary societies. I always wanted to be a part of one of those, and secret initiatory orders such as Freemasonry. So I talked about that a little bit. Their early growth was widely opposed by university administrators through increasing influence of fraternity alumni, as well as several high-profile court cases succeeded in largely muting opposition in the 1880s.
Okay.
And so sororities, which were actually called women's fraternities, began to develop in 1851. And the first one is called, I'm going to mess this up, Adelphian Society, Alpha Delta Pi. And though fraternity-like organizations for women didn't take their current form until Pi Beta Pi in 1860. I know, it just messes me up. 1867, and Kappa Alpha Theta and Kappa Kappa Gamma in 1870. Wasn't that an SNL skit? Like Delta Delta Delta.
Probably.
Can I help you?
Probably.
And numerous Greek organizations in the past have enacted formal and informal prohibitions on pledging individuals at different races, cultural backgrounds. This began with widely historically white fraternities, go figure, and sororities, excluding African Americans due to racism. Historically, Black fraternities and sororities were spearheaded in response to that, which makes sense. Like, you're not going to let us in? All right, we're going to make our own thing. It's going to be way fucking cooler, which it is, because there's usually dance involved. I'll take it.
I love it.
And what I found very interesting, too, is that pre-1920, so pre-industrialization, people weren't really going to college.
Yeah.
So
you had to work, bitch. Or go to World War I.
Yeah. You didn't just go off to fucking Cambridge and Princeton.
Was for the wealthy.
So fraternities and sororities, once a lot of people started going to colleges, the colleges were actually more supportive because they're like, we need housing for these people.
Exactly.
That's where it came from.
Yeah.
So you see in the 1900s, 1920s, a big boom. So the first multicultural sorority, Mu Sigma Epsilon, was established in 1981. Oh, that feels so late.
Wow, that's pretty recent.
I mean, Jesus Christ. Racism. It's still here. At Rutgers University, New Brunswick, New Jersey. A few exceptions. Most fraternities or sororities are secret societies. And while the identity of the members or officers is really concealed, fraternities and sororities initiate members following the pledge period through sometimes elaborate private rituals, frequently drawn or adapted from Masonic ritual practice and Greek mysteries.
Ooh, it sounds so mysterious.
And I remember my dad was like, "There's a secret handshake," and I was like, "Can I see it?"
Oh, no.
And he was like, no. And I'm like, why? And he's like, because it's a secret.
I asked Bill if he wanted to be a guest, and he said, no, I could get in trouble for revealing the secrets of, I can't even remember which one he's in, but it's one that presidents have been in. So, and he was like, oh, I can't do that. He's like, I'd have to hide my identity. I'm like, oh God. Forget it, man.
We'll have you in black with through a funny voice sounding thing.
Yeah.
What is it, that secret? What's a fucking secret?
I don't know. It's like, I have no idea what they were doing.
I hate shit like that, though.
It's so dumb. But anyway, well, whatever. I'm not going to call it dumb. I'm going to reserve judgment.
We won't yuck your yum.
We're not going to yuck your yum. I'm going to throw some glitter, not shade, bitch. And I'm also going to now take a critical look at Greek life because we're committed to highlighting the good. Or wait, what the fuck am I trying to say? Hold on.
Good. It's not just me.
We're going to talk about. I am so, guys. I have to get another injection in my back today, a steroid injection, and I do something called conscious sedation. Cool. So they give me the good drugs, even though I'm not really a fan of drugs, but I am not allowed to drink. I'm going to be eating a burger like David Hasselhoff after because I am starving. You can't eat 8 hours before, and I can't even have any water 6 hours before.
Oh, I was just about to drink some of my water. Now I feel like I can't do it in front of you.
Don't worry. And also, the reason why I'm so thirsty is 100% my fault because my stupid ass decided to go out and have drinks last night, knowing that I was going to be doing this today and could only drink water up until a certain time.
Oh, no.
I'm the moron. I deserve this. So anyway.
So you're going to make some errors here. Plus, it's Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday. Yeah. What are you going to do?
I don't know.
So we're going to talk about the good stuff first. And I mentioned that philanthropy is supposed to underscore every sorority and fraternity. So this is from Campus Classics. Fraternities have philanthropy for a variety of different reasons. To start off with, the main reason that fraternities have philanthropy is to give back to their local and national community. So this is according to a Fratty Bear article. I
love that
which to me
title.
Sounds very gay. And I'm like, if they were frat bears, those are the people I'd want to hang out with.
Same.
The key components of fraternity philanthropy, according to Fratty Bear, is community engagement, fundraising initiatives, advocacy and education, and collaboration and impact.
I'm for those.
Yeah.
Those are good things.
It's all good shit, right?
Yeah.
And
especially at a young age.
Yeah. No, I think it's really good. Provided you're actually doing those things, and so 2023, the stats are pretty good. Fundraising stats from Onward State article tells us that Alpha Tau, Omega fraternity and Zeta Tau Alpha sorority were the two largest fundraisers of any organization, raking in $452,000 and roughly $452,000. We're going to leave it at that. So why do college students join fraternities and sororities in the first place? So now that we've discussed, yes, there is a philanthropic component. And we're going to get into this a little bit more later, but a lot of people, not everybody, but some of these fraternities are comprised of wealthy members, white members, who have access to resources and money,
disposable resources.
Yeah, exactly.
What's
and networks that have the ability to make big contributions to whatever philanthropic endeavor they're connected to. So don't forget that. Okay. So why do college students join fraternities and sororities? So this is according to a Greek U article. Apparently there are 10 reasons why students should join sororities. So that tells you their perspective. Become a part of a community. Build your social skills.
Sorry.
Right, but I can imagine you and I didn't have a traditional college experience like Bill had. He got to go to college at Davis with a couple of his friends from high school.
But isn't that your community?
What?
That's enough. I'd be I went to Santa Cruz for a 2 weeks.
Yes,
Jen.
but imagine being there and only having Arthur.
I did.
As your friend. Yeah, you're like, I didn't have to imagine. That's why I left after a week. Sorry, Arthur.
He was nice to me.
Fuck you, Arthur. No, we love you, Arthur.
Steph let me sleep in his bed and didn't try and do anything either. He was so sweet. He was like, don't go.
But, I could imagine being in a new place, and imagine you're in a completely different state.
Yes.
You're like, I need to make some friends.
Yeah.
I can see why one might be attracted to a fraternity or sorority in order to do so. I'd be like, where are the socialists? That's the group I want to join. Building your social skills is another reason. Participating in community service. Yeah, I'm sure that's the big reason. Building a network, filling up your social calendar, receiving academic assistance, getting access to more housing options. Yeah, especially if you get to live off campus. I don't know how it works necessarily. I just know that, unfortunately, from what I understand, after seeing The Hunting Ground, that the reason why a lot of colleges turn a blind eye to sexual assault and behavior like that is because they need those housing options because they don't have sufficient housing for all of the students.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll jump.
We're already out of the pros.
More on that later. I know clearly I keep deviating toward the bad stuff. Oh God, I'm trying to be objective here, motherfuckers. Okay. Getting access to more housing options. Talked about that. From a tight one-on-one bond. Cool. I'm not going to make that sexual. Find leadership opportunities. Be a part of tradition.
Okay.
So there was
that sounds nice.
Yeah, it does. It does on paper.
Networking after college. Was that one of them?
Yeah, that's huge. So there's an article from Proof Points. A new poll actually points to college and career benefits of Greek life despite criticism. This is a Gallup poll. It's commissioned by 2 advocacy organizations, Advocacy for Fraternities and Sororities. So it's important to remember, follow the money. They found that fraternity and sorority members were more likely to say they formed relationship with mentors and professors, were extremely active in extracurricular activities, and worked in internships where they could apply what they were learning in college classes. But,
That's again, what I did.
Yeah, it's true. But you didn't join a fraternity and sorority in order to do that. And, we have to remember, too, that fraternities and sororities charge high membership and residential fees and tend, as we said, to select wealthier students with higher grades to start with. So it's also likely that those who choose to participate in Greek life may be more optimistic in nature, more outgoing, and more likely to take advantage of networking opportunities during college and beyond, because life has given them much privilege.
I was going to say to me, this is all such skewed data in that sense, because you're already taking a group that probably is on that higher scale anyway.
That's right.
And again, I'm having I will own that my perception is Revenge of the Nerds. Look, white dudes, good looking, the sports, the athletes versus
the tri-lambs.
The tri-lambs.
I would have been in the tri-lambs. I'd have been kicking it with Booger.
Me too.
just none of the sexual assault.
No.
Yeah, that was
not good.
Yeah. Anyway, Carolyn, why don't you talk to us a bit about the psychology, or maybe the psychological impact, if there is one, of joining? Yeah.
Well, okay, let's step back for a second. Let's talk about the developmental stage that kids teenagers or young adults are, according to Eric Erickson, who studies lifespan development historically, young adults are from 18 to 45.
Wow. Cool. I'm a young adult.
Well, they've broken it down since then and whatnot. And so, okay, we know legally at 18, you could smoke, you could vote, you could drive.
You can die in a war.
You can die in a war. You can drive at 16.
Yep.
You're not supposed to drink yet. So there's a lot of adult things, but let's be honest. At this point, teens are, and I think I want to say it was maybe different 20 years, maybe even 50 years ago, but I'm thinking about the teenagers today that are going to college. Yeah. And they're feeling a combination of excitement, fear about the future. It's a time in your life where you are at your highest level of optimism because hopefully, I'm thinking back to me, I'm like, that was when I was the lowest level of optimism because nothing bad's supposed to have happened.
Yeah, it's all situational.
It's, and so I'm like, oh, fuck, I was already like jaded and fucking broken by that. Anyway.
Where's the goth sorority?
I know, there probably
I
is one now.
I want to meditate on death and look at crows.
The emo one.
Yes.
The craft was like our own little subculture.
This is true.
There was no sorority for it.
That's the sorority I would have joined.
So anyway, they tend, at that age, all you're focused on is friends, social life, and the future. So if you think about it in that context, there's so many decisions to be made in life after graduation, careers, college plans. People are going to be attracted to something that's basically selling that. Yeah. Right. And I think even parents feel this sort of like, oh, okay, they'll be taken care of. Like, or a lot of parents went to these fraternities and sororities. So you're continuing that tradition. So I get why it looks so appealing. Like you said, I looked up enough stuff where it was half and half. Okay. You either saw people being, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me, or this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I think you can look about that with military service. This really, this helped me get my degree. This helped me do things, or this like ruined me for life. So, there's always going to be the
everybody's
the
different.
highs and lows. But I think that's what's interesting when there's very different ends. It's either the best experience or something really bad happens.
Interesting.
I don't know. So that's what that was the research I found. I found very little neutrality. Okay. So, but anyway, 18-year-olds have a lot of time to invest in thinking about what type of life they want. And so they're going to be more drawn to this. So, there's obviously pros and cons to this. Oh, this is the other thing I was going to say. When you're looking at this from a brain development and cognitive development, emotional development, these are individuals who look like adults. Yes. Sound like adults. Their physiology is that of an adult. In fact, that's when you reach your peak age and you actually start your decline physically in your mid-20s. Because we're supposed to
be reproducing a lot earlier.
Yes. Yeah. And so that alone makes you incredibly idealistic and wanting to try new things. It also can make you really vulnerable. Yes. And so it's a very, very tricky time.
Well, you're making bad decisions because you're supposed to. Your brain isn't quite ready to.
Exactly. And so if there was a more... You're also having young adults monitor a lot of this in layers. Yes. So you've got the college dean who like oversees everything. Yeah. And then the trickle down, because they couldn't manage all in the 1920s. The article I read was saying that, there were all these fraternities to help do that. And they had discipline go in tier structure. So the dean kind of oversaw everything. Yeah. But then it was really another 20-year-old telling 18-year-olds what to do.
Awkward.
I have a sibling, not I had one. She's still alive. Good Lord.
Thankfully.
And I didn't need another older person telling me what to do. And you also have kids, they're free. Yeah. They're going to do fucking dumbass shit. So that's the part where let's talk about the cons. So this is from the Newport Institute, which
do we talk about any pros? Fuck. I mean,
I'll do the pros. Oh, okay. I'll do pros first. All right. Okay. So Newport Institute, there's Newport Academy, which has Newport Institute is a larger consortium, and academies are like little residential programs or day programs or intensive outpatients, partial hospitalizations, 14. So I actually like their research. I think they do a good job. Obviously, they're trying to get you into their programs, but I thought this was a great article. So here's what they said. When it comes to the pros and cons, it depends on the person. Yep. What are the rules and culture of the Greek organization itself? And here's my tag. If you're already struggling with things such as having a sense of belonging, substance use, if you tend to take risks, if you tend to be more easily manipulated, you don't, that would really frighten me from a parent standpoint. I don't know that I would want my kid doing this. Unless they're in like the cool mental health, like sorority that's like very activating.
Mental health sorority.
But I think like we said, that's everything. So the mental health consequences, like you said, hazing, sexual assault, these are things I would worry about. And, you know, North American Interfraternity Conference, so again, that tells you where they're coming from, said 84% of alumni who are affiliated with Greek organizations thought it was great, had really positive feelings. They talk about, you know, sense of belonging, which is huge. We need that. And you talk about at college, what a scary time. You're away from home. Having that culture and that I belong to something. Yes. That's very powerful. That brotherhood, really a sisterhood. And especially if you didn't grow up with siblings, you're probably really excited about that. Yeah. So, you know, the pros are an expanded social circle, future leadership, better housing. We kind of talked about all of this, the academics. I think kind of the biggest pro I would say is the connections and the networking that's going to happen after, because you're connected to these people's parents too. And so you're creating this webbing. The cons though, for me are, well, it costs money. Yes. Now I do believe that many fraternities and sororities offer scholarships for members. Great. So that as long as it's equal, I think this is my thing. If you are going, this is an advantage. Yeah. And so then you're singling people out based off their income. So as long as there's some kind of equanimity or not equanimity, equality within the scholarshiping, but it does cost money. It does take up time, a lot of time. And you've got, while the pro is, well, you're going to have more support academically and you'll have people who've done classes and stuff, but you know, depending on how good you are at managing that could be a problem. Dealing with the stigma. You and I are perfect examples of that. When someone's like, oh, I was in a sorority, like my internal me is like, oh God, you know, and I'm massively eye rolling. And I know a lot of people who have been in them and I'm like, we don't seem like you're the type. And so there's definitely that stigma. And we
are judgmental. And it's coming out as we do this podcast and we keep skewing negative. We clearly have our preconceived notions of what this experience looks like and the kind of damage it could potentially do. I'm having difficulty. This is me owning it, bitch. I'm having difficulty thinking beyond that.
I am too. And I think it's because we're not talking about, I mean, we're talking about death. We're talking about sexual trauma. Yes. And these are things that even if you think those things are happening, you know, if I had a car that, you know, it's like the Pinto, right? You know, if this car is going to blow up on someone, you get rid of it.
Were the Pintos exploding?
I think so.
The Broncos were. Oh, no, the Explorers. And they were calling them Ford Exploders. Anyway.
I just think there's enough data and research to also say the opposite. But you can look also at sports. You can look at a lot of things. I think anytime you, like to your point, anytime you gather a group of like-minded people and give them power, there's going to be abuse. And that's anything.
Well, any sort of hyper masculine environment too. And full disclosure, and I've mentioned this in other episodes, my master's thesis was on remediating sexual assault through a human rights lens at the college level. And the primary focus in terms of perpetrators was college athletes and fraternities, because statistically, at least from what I've read, members of those groups are more likely to commit sexual assault.
And it's secret. Yeah. You're owning the fact that none of this is transparent. Yeah. None of this is, it's intended to be. Yeah. So you're setting up a construct that entitles these organizations to do what they do. And this is just what people report. Yes. So, you know, again, yes, there's always going to be pros and cons. And I think this is one of those ones where, there's a lot of pros. There's a great article by Alan Raifman in Psychology Today. And I won't go into details because you can read it on your own, but he really speaks to kind of these two, sides of the coin, right? That yes, there's going to be the pros and cons, and they're very stark, and it depends on who your kid is. Depends on what their background is. You know, it depends on the type of sorority, but you know, it's a network, and it gives you a sense of confidence, and it gives you a sense of entitlement. And I just worry what that does at such a young age. It becomes a little Lord of the Flies.
Right.
And so there's a wonderful author and a wonderful book. Her name is, I keep wanting to call her Melissa Robbins. It's not that, Alexandra Robbins. And she wrote a fabulous book, which I had actually read before we did this. It's written in 2004. It's called Pledge. And she, concludes after she actually wanted to do an article about this and they wouldn't let her. So she went in undercover for a year and pretended she was a freshman and talked to all these women. She says, I have really deep mixed feelings about this. For every girl who emerges from a sorority with improved self-esteem, there's numerous others whose confidence has been crushed. And, again, that conformity, the intolerance, the consistently being judged, that's a heavy reliance on men for social validation in an enormous time and financial commitment.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence.
I know. And here we go. We're going to go further down the dark rabbit hole here and talk about some of the things that we've already touched on. The first being sexual assault. And the Newport Institute, which you told me is good. So I'm like, yay. College students in Greek organizations are more likely to have sex under the influence of alcohol or drugs, and that increases the risk of sexual violence and having unprotected or unwanted sex. Moreover, alcohol is banned at sororities on many college campuses, but not at fraternities. Well, that's fucking sexist. And that means sorority women go to fraternity houses to drink, where they're more vulnerable to sexual assault. It should never be on the woman.
No.
But yeah, I just want to make that point. And as a result, female students in sororities are more than 3 times as likely to have experienced sexual assault, rape, or attempted rape than non-affiliated students, according to one study.
That bothers me.
Of course, and it should.
Yeah.
Another study puts the number even higher, stating that sorority members are 74% more likely to experience rape than non-affiliated college women. So that's obviously incredibly problematic. There's a 2021 LA Times article that I'm going to quote now, and this is from the author's account. They say, the few times I attended a frat party, my friends and I went in groups, fearing what might happen. We kept an eye on one another and our drinks. The predominantly white fraternity members wouldn't let us bring male friends unless the women far outnumbered them. In dark and beer-drenched rooms, the predatory culture was palpable. Men ogled and appraised us. They cornered women who stumbled in darkness. With lucid sneers, they groped and grinded on women who were half responsive. Gross. Some had to be rescued from molesters by their friends. Fuck and that. So studies have found that fraternity men are 3 times more likely to rape women than non-affiliated classmates. Women in, there's the sorority statistic I already quoted. And then we go to hazing. Hazing is another, unfortunate, predominant practice that sometimes results in serious injury or death. And the definition of hazing is it's an activity expected of someone joining or participating in a group that humiliates, degrades, abuses, or endangers them. Fuck, I knew the wine was going to come at this point. Just let this keep rolling.
Cause I love your smile. Hi, Belle. It's your old pal Carolyn. Got some great beats for you. One that goes a little something like this. Oh, I can't remember the song now. Damn it. I really am. I feel like I'm hungover right now, but I'm not. I just don't want to. I don't want to think or talk. I was going to sing Amy Grant. Baby, baby, something your emotion. And I don't know the words until the ocean.
Was so heavy.
Baby, baby. Stop for a minute.
That was going to come.
Babe, I want you here.
Here we go. So we're going to cut that part out. Okay.
Are you sure?
Yes. I know, it's so good. Okay. So I'm just going to go back to the definition of hazing.
Okay.
All right. And 3, 2. So I think we should define hazing. It's any activity expected of someone joining or participating in a group that humiliates, degrades, abuses, or endangers them, regardless of a person's willingness to participate. 3 components that define hazing. We've got it occurs in a group context. It's humiliating humiliating, degrading, or endangering, as I mentioned, and it happens regardless of an individual's willingness to participate. So that's the criteria. So frat hazing complaints include beatings, burnings. This is from a UMD. I think that's the University of Maryland article. This is from March 24th, so recent. The hazing allegations, I think this is a court case. My mind is fuzzy. The hazing allegations that led to a suspension of all fraternities recruitment efforts and drinking events at the University of Maryland, this month included reports of students being forced to consume urine and other degrading activities. Awesome. So yes, this is an ongoing court case. In the most graphic report, a student complained anonymously to school officials that he was abused for 5 hours in what's known as a lineup. They force you to wall sit, do push-ups, plank, intentionally harm oneself.
I'd be out. Just with the physicality. Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to do push-ups.
Yeah, no.
I'll just go buy a keg for free.
I'm out, dude. I'll buy my own friends. Be naked in underwear for the purpose of public humiliation and be physically assaulted. At one of these events, one individual passed out as they refused to provide us with water and forced us to drink straight vodka. And they did nothing to help him. In fact, they hit him in the face with a plastic bat and poured beer on him until he woke up. Awesome. You wonder how kids end up dead? I don't want to be the mom who gets the phone call that my child fucking died this way. This is awful. So,
so this is something called, it's called creepy normalcy
in
psychology. And so a lot of people judge these students and go, well, then just go.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing like with domestic violence.
Yes.
It doesn't start off that way.
Right.
And one of the TED Talks I watched of a mother of 5 who got that call.
Oh, God.
It was awful. I know. But she said, no, my son was marched to the beat of his own drum.
Yeah.
Like everyone knew him as someone who didn't just do things because he didn't want to do things. Like and she talks about how, it's not like you meet them and then they immediately say, hey, nice to meet you. Hey, I'm going to have you, hold all my books, do all my chores. I'm going to beat you. I'm going to make you drink your own piss.
Yeah.
I'm going to do da-da-da-da-da. Probably at that point, someone would go, I'm out.
Right.
It doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
And knowing also on the other side that if you leave, what could happen to you? You're fucked.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a lot like domestic violence in the sense where these folks are promising a lifelong relationship. We're your brothers. We're going to take care of you for the rest of your life.
Piss on me.
Right?
What kind of brother? I mean, no.
And I'm not supposed to know any of the things that Bill had to do, but rest assured, they were all incredibly mild.
Yes.
It was all really chill stuff.
I was going to say that a lot of the people that I do know who I highly respect who are in sororities and fraternities, they haven't shared those things. But but that's the thing. It's like there's enough stories that we all sort of know that, you see hazing in gang initiation. You see it in nursing school. You see it in the army. Right. You see it with any group, prisons. I mean, but any group that's trying to initiate, and there's kind of a like sadistic. Who does that?
Well, yeah, we're going to talk about that a little later. Because I'm curious. I don't think it's funny either. It really isn't. And it's especially not funny when you look at the statistics that there has been at least one university hazing death each year from 1969 to 2021. And over 200 university hazing deaths have occurred since 1838, with 40 deaths being between 2007 and 2017 alone. And alcohol poisoning is one of the biggest causes of death. And let's talk about excessive drinking.
But they're under 21. They shouldn't have access to alcohol, Jen.
Well, neither should I. And I shouldn't have had access to acid and all the, all not terrible, but all the things I did when I was a teenager, right?
Don't do what we did. Do what we say.
Exactly. Do what I say, not what I did. So excessive drinking. So these are stats from the Addiction Center. 4 out of 5 fraternity and sorority members are binge drinkers. In comparison, other research suggests 2 out of 5 college students overall are regular binge drinkers. This is from a Harvard study. Members of both fraternities and sororities are at a higher risk for binge drinking and drug use than the rest of the college population. However, research suggests that young men are more likely to drink excessively than women. Okay, so That's really important to understand. And while the Greek system provides social and professional benefits to college students, its members are also more likely to abuse alcohol and drugs than their non-Greek affiliated peers. And there's a few reasons that have been cited as to why this is. Group living and peer pressure, as you mentioned, hazing or initiation rituals, lack of supervision, and social pressure.
Well, and just, again, going back to the development.
Yeah.
While your body is at that of an adult, your brain is not.
No.
And that is the worst time to be drinking.
Right. Especially to excess.
To that level of excess. And what a tragic waste.
It is.
At that age.
When you listen to these statistics from the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, 1,700 college students deaths from alcohol-related causes, more than 500,000 unintentional injuries, more than 600,000 assaults, and more than 70,000 cases of sexual assault and acquaintance rape. It's insane.
Yeah.
And alcohol absolutely is not an excuse for sexual assault or rape. I never want to hear anybody say I was drunk, but unfortunately, we live in a world where if a woman is drunk in one of these situations, statistics are telling us this, not Jen and Carolyn, statistics that in some instances, dudes are going to fucking take advantage of that.
And that's the people that report.
Yes. And we know from studies.
Yeah.
Not everybody reports. In fact, a small number of people who have experienced this actually report it to either college officials or the police.
And also think about not just from women, but men who get assaulted.
Oh, God.
Too.
There's a greater stigma there.
Yeah. So it's not good.
Talk to me a bit about, I'm not sure this is something that can be summed up generally. We mentioned about we're all individuals, but there is groupthink.
Yes.
Are there any psych aspects and personality traits that make Greek life more attractive to abusive motherfuckers?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we already answered this, but tell us more.
It was so funny because one of the things I was listening to was like, notable presidents have been fraternities, Supreme Court justices. In this day and age, those are not necessarily people that I'm looking up to.
Right.
Wasn't that part of the whole Dr. Christine
Blasey Ford
and fucking his whole
Kavanaugh
went out with squee on this night and all this shit. All that shit was fraternity shit.
Yep.
Not to, again, not to overgeneralize.
Great privilege as youngsters, as high school students, which is when the attempted assault occurred. And that privilege just continued into the college sphere.
Yep. And so, yes, there actually is, it's a loose correlation, but it's there. This is a great article. I'm actually going to read the title of it because it was quoted in most of the research that I looked up. It's from, it's called Acta Psychologia. Psychologia.
Make it Italian.
Yeah. That's for you, Maria. It's from February 2022. It's called Animal House, the dark tetrad traits and membership in sororities and fraternities. I have no idea how it's spelled. Tetrad.
Tetrad, maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. So here's what we know. Here's what the dark tetrad is. It's a personality constellation consisting of manipulative and cynical Machiavellianism, entitled and exhibitionistic narcissism, impulse and reckless psychopathy, and cruel and abusive sadism.
Yep.
Well, a lot of the toxic hazing, well, I don't even know if is that an oxymoron? Hazing, if you're like, you have to hold a brick all day. Like, okay, cool.
Comparatively speaking, it's not the worst thing in the world.
That's not the worst thing that can happen unless like something really bad happened to you with bricks, and that's incredibly traumatizing.
I'm triggered. I'm activated by these bricks. My father was killed by a brick. No, I don't have a father. No. I mean, I do. He's somewhere out there. But anyway, we're not going to go down that road today. Anyway, tell us more about Machiavellianism.
Yeah. So Machiavellian individuals are less likely to be members. We're less likely to be members of sororities and fraternities. Narcissistics were more likely to. So Machiavellianism is like... Machiavelli he was a prince in Italy. I don't know if there's like a book about it.
There's, what defines Machiavellianism, if I said that right. It's a personality trait that denotes cunningness, the ability to be manipulative, and a drive to use whatever means necessary to gain power.
And wasn't it like he took over, like he killed someone?
Story.
I know. I'm so bad at history.
Tupac went by Machiavelli. fuck yeah, Tupac.
See, there you go.
Anyway,
you're way cooler than me, Jen.
I try.
So I can see why someone like that wouldn't be interested because, they want to do their own thing.
They're not joiners.
It seems like you kind of, the narcissist who's like, I'm going to go do my own thing because I actually am better than all of you and I don't want to be part of everything. But yeah, I think narcissistic individuals, sadistic individuals, and psychopathy in the sense that you think it's fun to bully. And you think and to go beyond that, like you get some sort of, I don't think it's fun or powerful to make people suffer. Yeah. In fact, I'm a welcomer. Right. I would haze you by being like, let's make brownies and whoever has the best one gets tea
You can eat the most brownies.
I'd be in a food sorority probably.
Yes.
But like, even when I think of one of my favorite movies, Dazed and Confused, like the senior girls, it's this rite
the freshman paddle.
There is sort of that rite of passage of having the older enter in the new. Yes. Like there is something, that's not unique to fraternity and sororities. That's an initiation that's cultural and that you can see across religions, across cultures, a lot of things. But yeah, I would say that there is something for these Greek life and these frats and sororities that are negative and are impacting trauma and murder. Yeah. And it's the cover up. Yeah. These are kids. Yeah. They're fucked up and they're kids, but where's the oversight? Where's the glass? Where's the infrastructure that's supposed to be protecting? Yes, I know we were also not 21 when we drank too. We'll find a way. Yeah. But there's something different about this. It's like sanctioned and like it's part of the lore.
Well, they're turning a blind eye to it.
It's part
the
of
officials.
The lore.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this is where we can get this.
We can party.
And we can party and we're going to do it. And you want to be a part of that. Right. And these are fucking dumb adolescents still. Yeah.
Right. No.
And so, I found another article, again, where they talk about Alexandra Robbins, the author of Pledged. And it's a CNN article about, is it time to change our thinking on fraternities? Right. And where this comes into play is kind of where we're going to kind of go into next, sort of about, just that toxic culture that we have of being exclusionary and perpetrating harm on people for our own, to lift us up. Yeah. That's not a part of a culture that I would want to be proud to be in, so, while yes, there is a little bit of a loose association and it is there. Yeah.
Yeah. And, there is some pushback, some opposition to dismantling frats. And I'm just going to touch briefly on an article I found on CNN entitled, "Is it time to change our thinking on fraternities?"
That's what I just said.
And that's right.
One, yeah.
It's the same one. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I put this note, but maybe I didn't. Okay.
You did.
Yeah. So, she does talk about Alexandra Robbins, she spent years reporting for a book on fraternities, as you mentioned. And she says, I learned that eliminating all of them could deprive good people of important social resources that many schools otherwise do not provide. Women's multicultural and LGBTQ centers admirably facilitate valuable opportunities for many students. However, college men, whether racial minorities, LGBTQ, or straight and white, need supportive, inclusive communities. She also says, the dominant media narrative has conflated toxic masculinity with traditional masculinity. And while the phrase toxic masculinity was popularized as a way to describe a very real phenomena of gender role limitations on men, today, sorry, I got kind of lost. Today, many people misconstrue it as a description of men who are violent towards women. So, there's some misconceptions. Even this person who went undercover and exposed some of the ugliest elements of sororities and fraternities is saying, let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater. Now, do you have thoughts on this, especially with men and their need to bond with other men and that being a healthy outlet?
I think anytime people can bond in a way that's loving and that's compassionate and that's building people up, I think it's great. Okay. The second and I do think that there, and I think that goes for anyone. Yeah. I think there's a sense of belonging when you're with people that, look like you and do feel like you. Yeah. And when you don't have that, so like, I don't really feel that way about white people personally.
Yes.
But I do think so, for example, for Black and, Latino or Asian cultures, or even like there's Jewish fraternities, sororities, to be with your affinity group or to be with a cultural group where you don't have to teach anyone and you all just know.
Yes.
And I don't think you do have that. But I also think then, again, that becomes such a big debate, right? Mm-hmm. Because you also don't want to be exclusionary.
Well, I think that minority folk, for lack of a better word, or people who have been historically oppressed, have absolutely every right to have safe spaces, because our culture and our society has deprived them of that, and has in many cases quite literally murdered them for congregating, murdering Black people in the churches where they congregate, and that's where it's different. And that's why I think white folks have a difficult time understanding. And they're like, that's exclusionary and that's racism, which is stupid and a misnomer. But you know what I'm saying?
Well, and at the same time, the Boy Scouts of America just changed their name. They're the Scouts of America.
And
okay. It could go either way. Okay. And so I think, what if we, again, I agree with you. Yeah, absolutely. And I think those are safe spaces and they should be, again, protected and kept that way. And, how are we also integrating? Like I remember in our high school, instead of having cultural affinity groups, they had Kaleidoscope. And each group had, every month was a featured culture. And a feature thing. And so it was inclusive by being exclusive.
That's what we do in our office.
Yeah.
Well, we celebrate all of the heritage months.
Yeah.
Super awesome.
And I think that, again, when you're getting people, and that's the thing where it's like, well, this is I don't know. And see, I don't know so much about this as this happens now, but again, in probably certain places, but, a lot of the fraternities and sororities and some of the teens I've worked, or college students I've worked with who are on them, don't speak of it in a sense where it's like, oh, well, we wouldn't let an Asian person in, or we wouldn't let an African-American person in. But for every single one that does promote that, there's going to be one that does. And that frightens me, because we cannot afford that in this time. Yeah. And it's really dangerous when that happens. Yeah. So again, bringing it back to male versus female though, I think that's part of it. And that would be really nice for men to have a space. And I think when we look at Bill's, fraternity, these are guys they are his lifelong friends. Right. They stood at his wedding with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And these are people who they really are your brothers. Right. And that is a nice thing. And I do think for a man to have access to another man who he can do that with, but I also think anyone should have access to that.
Absolutely.
That should be a woman. That should be, it should be anything. And so I'm just not convinced that the actual toxicity and I don't think we've come that far yet.
We don't trust men when they get together. No, I don't. I want to kind of say that's a joke, but to an extent, especially with the external and internal pressures, my concern is that something could go horribly wrong.
And when it does, people die or get assaulted.
I think the beauty of the show Ted Lasso is that the expectation, because this is a sports organization, a sports team, that it's going to be toxic masculinity. But the reason why that show resonates is because they always do the exact opposite of what constitutes the toxic masculinity that I think a lot of us have come to expect from professional athletes. Yes. And if that were the way that fraternities conducted themselves, where they police each other, for lack of a better term, and make sure that the men are all behaving in a respectful way toward women, toward each other, etc. They're thinking critically. That'd be fucking great.
And I bet you there is. Yeah. I bet you there are. And we all know those. I mean, you and I were friends with guys like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We never hung with,
we never hung with the asshole jocks.
That's how we met, because you were mouthing off to them, Jen, for making fun of our friend. And, so I think that it's like anything where I agree with, Robbins that, don't throw the whole system away. Right. Keep the parts, the philanthropy, the education, the networking, open it up so it's less exclusionary. Yes. And also look at the system as a whole. Right. Why is someone going to a place and feeling excluded? Mm-hmm. How are we collectively taking care of each other? And, again, not letting anyone fall behind. Mm-hmm. When it comes to bullying or hazing or anything, group matters. Yeah. You can break a stick on itself, but if you have 10 sticks, you can't break them.
Right.
So the research and the data, we know that if you stand up for someone who's being abused and a group, the bully will back down.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. You see something, you say something. And I know not every young person, particularly that age, has the fortitude and the strength to be able to do that. But we need to continue to actively contribute to the development of a culture that encourages kids to do it. And I'm going to leave you with this final thought. There's a book that I read to my child. I don't have the author's name in front of me, but it's called One. And it's about, red, the color red. They use colors to describe a bullying situation where ultimately all the numbers stand up and they ultimately welcome the bully into the group. The bully was just, needed some love.
Which
man.
number is getting bullied? I bet it's 8.
I don't remember, but the color blue was getting bullied, I believe. And then they all turn into numbers and they're like, we're strong. We each represent a number together. We're unbreakable. And then they take the bully in and they're like, yeah, we love you too, bro. Yeah. The bully totally changes. So
cool.
If everybody should read One, maybe not just at 6 years old, like my child, but
I love
maybe when you're 18.
Books. You totally should.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right. Well, we're going to leave you to make your own decisions and do your own research in addition to all of the fucking research we did for you, which you can find in our show notes. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We hope you enjoy us. Follow us at Twat J and is it Twat JC?
Yeah.
Twat JC.
That's that. That's because the world according to Jen and Carolyn.
Get your minds out of the fucking gutter.
Yeah.
Follow us on TikTok.
Acronym.
Yeah.
Subscribe.
We're also on Instagram. I'm trying to maintain our YouTube channel. I'm really failing there, but soon more videos are coming.
Also, happy Mother's Day, Jen.
Yay! I'm a
to
mom.
The best mom in the world.
I try.
Both to me and your child.
Yay! I'm the world's mother. Anyway, have a great Mother's Day to all the mothers, and we'll see you next week.
Yay!
Bye.
Bye.